Hi, I'm Jenny Shao. I'm the outgoing fellow at Carolinas Medical Center and will be joining the faculty at the University of Pennsylvania. I'm excited to be presenting our research regarding open and laparoscopic ventral hernia repairs in a propensity matched study in large ventral hernias. These are our disclosures. The optimal way to repair a ventral hernia has been much debated in the literature since the advent of minimally invasive surgery. The latest meta-analysis of 10 randomized controlled trials demonstrated that short-term hernia recurrence rates are similar between the two techniques, as is the overall complication rate. The study also demonstrates that wound infection rates tend to be much higher in open hernia repairs. Of the studies that exist, a similar recurrence rate is seen between laparoscopic and open repairs, but further long-term follow-up is still needed. In these meta-analyses, the significant variability and heterogeneity between the studies can make interpretation of results difficult. There are advantages and disadvantages to both types of repairs. Laparoscopic ventral hernia repairs allow for decreased wound complications, decreased operative time, and shorter length of hospital stay. But conversely, they are mostly bridging intraperitoneal repairs with limited ability to perform fascial closure or component separation. They also tend to have increased seroma rates and oftentimes decreased abdominal wall functionality due to inability to approximate the rectus muscles. On the other hand, open preperitoneal ventral hernia repairs allows us to close the fascial defect, repair a much larger and complex hernias with loss of domain, and also allows for soft tissue revision as needed and mesh excisions. It also allows us to place our mesh in an extraperitoneal plane. But the drawbacks include higher wound complication rates, higher rates of mesh infection, and overall longer recovery and length of stay. Because of the significant variability between laparoscopic and open techniques, comparisons between the two can be quite difficult. Our aim was to design a study examining hernia recurrence rates between laparoscopic and open ventral hernia repairs and a well-matched large ventral hernia defects with long-term follow-up. Our secondary aims were to assess associated wound complications, length of stay, and quality of life. We designed a one-to-one propensity match cohort based on hernia defect size and follow-up time. We were careful to exclude umbilical hernia repairs in smaller defect sizes and attempted to match large hernia defects. We identified 176 matched pairs for a total analysis of 352 patients who underwent ventral hernia repair from 2002 until 2019. These patients then underwent univariate analysis and comparisons. Our patient characteristics demonstrated that the two groups were well matched in terms of age, BMI, gender, incidence of diabetes, and hernia defect size. The average hernia defect size between the two groups were 182 centimeters squared and 178 centimeters squared for the laparoscopic and open groups, respectively. The open preperitoneal group was more complex and comorbid than the laparoscopic group, with higher numbers of previous hernia surgeries, increased comorbidities, higher smoking history, and higher preoperative wound class. Operatively, we found that the laparoscopic and open groups were different in almost every single way except for operating room costs. Open preperitoneal ventral hernias had longer operating times, estimated blood loss, higher rates of component separation, fascial defect closure, larger meshes, and higher mesh to defect ratios, as well as higher preoperative wound classification with more need for biologic mesh and delayed primary closure. When examining our primary outcome, we noted that the recurrence rates were equivalent in the two groups with long-term follow-up at 40 months. We also noted that 30-day readmission rates, reoperations, hematomas, mesh infections, and postoperative pain were similar between the two groups. The open repair group had higher length of stay and associated hospital costs and higher rates of wound infection, while the laparoscopic group had higher rates of seroma formation. We also evaluated quality of life between laparoscopic and open groups with the Carolinas Comfort Scale, which is a validated hernia-specific quality of life assessment that accounts for mesh sensation as well as pain and movement limitations during activities of daily living. On both short-term and long-term follow-up, ranging from 4 weeks to 5 years, we saw no differences in quality of life between the open and laparoscopic groups. This is incredibly important as quality of life is one of the most important measures of success in hernia surgery. When comparing all patients who recurred to those who did not, we found that patients who recurred tended to be older, with higher BMIs, smaller mesh sizes, smaller mesh to defect ratios, and had longer operating times and incidence of wound infection. Interestingly, diabetes, smoking history, prior hernia surgery, component separation, fascial defect closure, and the laparoscopic versus open technique were not significant predictors of hernia recurrence. On multivariate analysis, we find that abdominal wound infection, fascial defect closure, smoking history, number of comorbidities, and mesh to defect ratio were all non-significant in predicting for hernia recurrence. Despite our attempts to create two similar groups in terms of hernia characteristics and follow-up, we still find key baseline characteristics between the patients and the two cohorts. We find that the laparoscopic and open ventral hernias are very different procedures in both concept and execution. Both procedures on long-term follow-up have similar recurrence rates of 10.8% for laparoscopic repairs and 9.2% for open repairs. Both techniques have their limitations and advantages, and choosing the right operation that is suited for each patient is key. Ultimately, predicting hernia recurrence is not necessarily as simple as looking at one particular patient characteristic. Likely has to do with an amalgamation of different risk factors that predispose a patient to hernia repair failure and recurrence. Due to the differing patient populations, complexity, underlying philosophy, and technique that exists between patients undergoing laparoscopic and open repairs, we must weigh the risks and benefits of each procedure for a patient-tailored and patient-specific approach to each hernia repair. Really, the question remains as to whether or not these two procedures should be compared at all. In our propensity match cohort of patients undergoing laparoscopic and open ventral hernia repairs for large defects, we found that recurrence rates and quality of life were equivalent on long-term follow-up. Additionally, in examining our patients more specifically, we should consider laparoscopic ventral hernia repairs more preferentially in smaller to medium-sized defects in order to decrease wound complications, length of stay, and overall cost. In patients with much larger defects with higher BMI, fascial defect closure to decrease mesh tension and increase mesh overlap will help decrease recurrence rates. Future directions include exploration of robotic techniques that can potentially maximize the benefits of laparoscopic and open repair techniques, randomized controlled trials in patients with similar comorbidities, hernia defect sizes with long-term follow-up will be useful in identifying who should undergo which type of repair. Thank you so much for your time. I'd like to thank SAGES for the opportunity to present our work and to my incredible research team and mentors at Carolinas Medical Center. Thank you so much for your time.